Hi, everybody. Dion Major here. I hope you're doing well. We are going to go ahead and get started. We're just a minute past the top of the hour. I'm going to talk a little bit and give some filler for folks to join us for today. Again, I think a lot of people are leaving one Zoom meeting and jumping on to another. So thank you for joining us today. Unfortunately, Shannon had an emergency that she had to attend to. For those of you that have seen her speak before, she is amazing. But she will absolutely be joining us for the second webinar that we're going to be having that talks about incremental change and how the power of that. And so for today, though, what we're talking about is kind of resetting our minds at the end of the day, where we know we have a business to run. Nobody's denying that. And we know that we have things that we need to do. And so being able to keep our teams sane, keep ourselves sane as a leader for those of you that are leaders. And for those of you that are on the call, maybe you have a smaller team or maybe some leadership that is spread thin, this message will definitely resonate with everybody at the end of the day. So whether, we have a good programmatic approach, we've got good leadership, all that good stuff, then there's definitely things that we can do for ourselves to round out some potential missing pieces. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I really look forward to our conversation today. And I think we're on for about an hour, but I don't know if we'll actually need the whole time. So maybe everybody will get a little bit of a break and you can go sit outside for a minute, take a quick walk. So when we think about resetting our mindset, sometimes there's this whole thing of, I want to go back to the way it was. What does that look like? What is the new normal? All that good stuff. And again, at the end of the day, we as businesses and salespeople and sales professionals exist to engage with our customers, to create a relationship with a desired end result being a really great relationship and of course some revenue. So when we're thinking about this, for us, again, if you're on the call and you're a leader or you're somebody you're a sales professional wanting to give yourself a little bit of structure, we're going to talk about the fundamentals. We're going to talk about deploying those fundamentals and of course setting expectations, and wrapped around all of that is communication. And I call out communication because to be good at it is to have a life that is good, right? And hopefully we're never going to be conflict free, but we can absolutely try to be as clear as possible and drive with clarity. So when we are thinking about our fundamentals and things of that nature, we want to think about speaking into the obvious. And so let's get right into it. And what does that mean at the end of the day? When we think about the fundamentals, we need to have a process. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to work. Poster size Post-it notes still work. And so if everybody has the same one, or if you have a background, or if you have a deck for your team that you want to use, you can actually make a rotating background in your Zoom as a leader that puts up your purpose statement, your mission statement, that rotates your fundamentals, right? So you can actually do those things. And then of course we want to walk it out, and then we can start running with it. So here's what that means. So for example, the fundamentals, how many of you have created a skills matrix for your team? You can go ahead and put that in the chat. For those of you that have, or if you haven't, right? What has worked, what hasn't worked, so on and so forth. So what you're seeing here is, what are the fundamental skills your team needs to have? And oh, by the way, for those of you that are sales leaders on the call, you need to have these things too. And so what you're seeing here is a little bit of a mix between the quantitative and qualitative components, right? So we talk about pre-call planning. Does your team know how to effectively do pre-call planning? Right? So there's a variety of mixed thoughts and science out there that talks about having a cadence, A/B testing, all that good stuff doesn't work because we're trying to engage with people. I get it. So what does that look like? What does that mean? How do we do pre-call planning? How do we take our best guess swag when we're reaching out to particular personas that buy our products and services? I just said a mouthful. So for you selling your products and services, what does it look like to sell to an executive, a VP, a frontline? How does your product and service help them? That will then, you can use that information to reverse engineer into your pre-call planning, okay? Then of course, we want to think about our conversational ability, our time management, our tone, our tenor, our phone video presence, right? Active listening, all that good stuff. So when we think about these things, again, how many of you have a skills matrix in place for your team? So I would love to see it in the chat. You can follow up with me afterwards. Would love to see that. And then of course, you can actually go ahead and build it out. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. We think about our crawl, walk, run. This is something that should be in your sales playbook. It should be part of your onboarding. How are people doing on this, right? And then again, it doesn't have to be super fancy, but you may need to make sure that you have a call scorecard. And then it is going to be a little subjective unless you call out certain keywords, and you can actually have a call recording, call monitoring platform in the background as well, right? So, but it might be a little subjective, but this is where you need to, if you don't have a call recording platform, have your phone, right? And of course, if you're in a dual consent state for recording, make sure you call out that you're going to record, right? Don't forget that piece. But then secondarily is if you don't have a call recording platform, use your phone to record, or the camera on your computer. There's 100 ways to go ahead and get this information. The purpose though, the overarching principle is to make sure that you have your fundamentals defined, that you have your skills matrix defined, and that you're able to, in some way, shape, fashion, or form, listen to calls and monitor progress, even if it is subjective. The little asterisk that's going to go here is 9 times out of 10, our reps are going to be harder on themselves than we will be as managers. So if you're listening to a call together, your rep might rate it a 5 and you might rate it a 7. So, but again, what are those skills? We called out some here. And then of course, there's some soft skills as well. As you progress as an organization, you can absolutely move from, this type of Excel sheet and kind of a manual function. I would just say if it's working though, keep it, but you can actually move into and have call recording platforms. You can put an LMS in place. There's 1,000 things you can do to get to the run stage. But again, when we think about shifting our mindset, when we think about revenue, driving to revenue, when we think about the new normal of doing mostly video calls, how do we help our team transition into a new skill set? How do we do that well? And how do we create a program by which everybody can opt in and choose to be successful if they put the work in? Okay. So when we think about the fundamentals, again, call it out. This is the skills matrix. This is what we're hoping to do, right? This is what we're going to need. These are the skills we're going to work on, all that good stuff, because now we're going to think about deploying it at the end of the day. So again, your skills matrix is probably something that's part of your onboarding at the end of the day. But when we think about it, we need a version 1. We need the why, the how, the what. Why do we need to do pre-call planning? Because the internet exists for a reason. 9 times out of 10, information that we need to make our calls very successful is going to be found in a LinkedIn profile, a company website, take your pick, right? You never know where that's going to come from. And so there's a couple of reasons we want to do this, right? Is the why, the how, and the what. We need to understand the why, both for our teams internally and the why for our team, for the people we're reaching out to. Why do we need a skills matrix? Because we need the customer experience, especially in this day and age, to be above and beyond anything anybody can ever imagine. That's what people are looking for right now, right? So think about that statement. Is that true? I think it is, right? So if I get a cold call from somebody or a cold email and they're looking to offshore my development, I'm a sole proprietor. Everything I do is turnkey from a solution perspective, right? So it's not really hitting the mark. And I know I'm getting just not good information coming at me. Okay. So if you are serious about working with your team or you're a sales professional on this call on your own, what skill set, call it out. What is the skill set you need to be successful? And then grade yourself. You can do green, yellow, red. There's nothing that says it's got to be on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. But why? Why do we need to develop that fundamentals? And then we think about deploying it, right? Because we want to be good at what we do, and we want our customer experience to be above anything they could ever imagine, right? And so that also gives us a roadmap to work on. So once we go through our initial onboarding and we cover off on some initial education and development of that skill set, we need to then get better at it, right? So our onboarding might be 4 weeks, it might be 5 weeks, it might be whatever. But at some point, we need to revisit it. So if we do, for example, we hire in January, and week 1 of our onboarding, we review pre-call planning, and we never do it again, that's probably a problem, right? Because what happens is we as humans matriculate and we morph. So maybe somebody has found a great way or a great site or something that helps with pre-call planning. So at the bottom here, we talk about implementation and training is ongoing, which is 100% true. So think about if you're going to hire an onboard in month 1, you're going to want to quote unquote re-onboard, meaning go over your skills on an ongoing basis, month over month. And this is where if you have that skills matrix webinar, or I'm sorry, the skills matrix Excel spreadsheet or Google sheet, you can see progress, right? So you want to see month over month, or you can do week over week, or whatever the case may be, right? And then you want to move into kind of a version 3, which is, okay, now we can take classes on lynda.com, or you can come to a webinar. You can talk about what does this look like for you? Where are you going to take classes? What books are you all going to read? What blogs are you going to listen to? What audiobooks, right? So it's really about being able to create your blueprint with the fundamentals and a skills matrix, and then you're going to start deploying. And you have to crawl, walk, run. So what does that look like to deploy and talk about, which is your onboarding? Then you also have your internal playbook, right? So that's part of it. Then you have a customer facing playbook, right? We need to make sure that everything we're teaching also comes with a purpose of why we're doing it. Why do we have to have a nice tone and tenor and timing? Why should we have good video presence, right? Because it's really all in the interest of making sure we can connect and resonate with our customer, to have a good conversation with them and establish a relationship, right? So, and of course, we talk about external onboarding and things of that nature. So it's the same thing. So when we think about deploying all of this, right, then we're thinking about moving into a version 3. Okay, how now are we moving into an advanced level of phone calls, video messages? Are we going to now, once we're in version 3, use a video messaging platform like Vidyard or Loom, or there's a few out there that we can use, right? So it's really about, again, we can't deploy anything without a plan. So we need to make sure we have a plan and we have our skills matrix at the end of the day. All right, I am talking fast. And so, but we went through getting to revenue, right? Shifting our mindset, being able to put some of these things in place. And for some of you, maybe you have these things in place. Congratulations. And maybe this is a refresher, or maybe this is a different viewpoint, or inspiring to get things done, right? And so then we talk about deploying it, because really we can have the best plan in the world, but unless we start shipping our plan and executing against it and deploying it, we don't really know if the plan is going to work. And so again, at the end of the day, our businesses exist to make money. They exist to help people. Our businesses exist to hopefully make a difference, right? We believe our products and services can help people. So we want to make sure that we are setting up the right foundation for ourselves to get there. And then that leads us to, again, setting expectations. In every playbook I've ever created, whether I was a practitioner or now as a consultant, there are 2 slides, and we spend a lot of time on them out of a playbook that's 120 slides. We spend a lot of time on expectations, both quantitative and qualitative. And so a lot of times it's, being able to share with people, come prepared, right? It sounds silly. However, coming prepared looks different for different people, right? So some people need to, if they're newer in their career, there's going to be a longer ramp to showing up prepared. For folks that are maybe a little bit more tenured, showing up prepared might not take as much. It might take more mental preparation than it would physical preparation, right? So we need to make sure that we are clearly defining expectations. So it might be everybody shows up on time, we leave on time, we have our agenda. We might have an agenda item that is miscellaneous, but we're going to time box it, right? We're going to be very clear with our expectations. We're going to be clear of what does pre-call planning look like? What does a good call look like, and why? Why are we measuring these things at the end of the day? So for all of us, again, if you're a leader on the call, or you are a frontline rep, or somebody looking to get better and hone their skill set your own expectations. I expect of myself to eat well, work out, drink plenty of water, do good work, follow up on leads, deliver good content, be prepared, do my homework, right? And then I'm going to share those expectations. And sometimes it feels a little silly stating the obvious. It might seem silly to say, hey, in this company, on this team, we all show up prepared. On this company, on this team, we follow this pattern for our work, right? Or these are the best practices for executing against a sales strategy. But we need to speak the obvious and share those expectations. And then we coach and reinforce. So I used to have teams, back in the day when we were all in an office, and we'd have poster size Post-it notes up or whatever, right? And so, some people have TVs and leaderboards, and you can still have all of that remotely now, right? But it was really about, if you had a skill of the month or a skill of the week that you were working on, put that out for everybody. So we want to coach and reinforce. So if month one, we're talking about pre-call planning or tone and tenor, right? Well, then month three, we're probably coaching and reinforcing to that. So being able to say, hey, remember we taught about tone, tenor, we taught about pre-call planning. Month three, we're going to deep dive into it. And we're going to score against it and just really press into that skill. Who's found a new way? Who's got this? Who's got that? And we share what we found, and we share those expectations. Okay. And so this requires a very disciplined, deliberate, intentional way of being at the end of the day. Okay. So this is the way we want to, from a professional perspective, it doesn't have to be rigid. So that's the thing, is that having a plan doesn't necessarily imply rigidity. Having a plan means I can work my plan. And if need be, I can say onboarding is here in month one, and month three, we were going to revisit pre-call planning, but you know what? Everybody's having a hard time with a new product or service we rolled out. So we're going to go back and do messaging workshop, how to create effective messaging, all that good stuff in month three instead. So it's really about, when we think about our skills matrix, when we think about deploying, when we think about setting expectations, it's about saying we're building lines on the road for everybody and ourselves. But you know what? I may have to call an audible. It doesn't change my structure. It changes the car I'm driving. It changes the topic I'm going to dive into. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. And again, crawl, walk, run. You don't have to build out a program right now and deploy it to your team. So we might lose some people with that, right? We might be moving a little too fast. So, but what we do want to be able to do is make sure that we are driving revenue by driving good relationships, by making sure our team is in the right mindset. And if we as leaders haven't helped our team define the mindset or headspace they're supposed to be in at this moment, that's on us. Okay. So again, 9 times out of 10, the name of the game is good relationships, right? So how do we do that? So we want to make sure that we are defining our expectations. What are the expectations we have of people on our team? What is the expectation of the team itself? What are the expectations of me as a leader? What do I need to do? How do I need to show up, right? So, and then of course we want to be able to share in such a way that we're not necessarily beating people up with those expectations, but we are encouraging, right? And then of course we want to coach and reinforce and give everybody the opportunity to get better. So then we think about, then we want to move into a couple of examples. So it's always nice if you're a leader, or even again on your own here, what is your annual plan? This is an example of one that I give to all my clients. I've done this one for the last, holy cow, 7, 8 years at this point. And so if you want a copy of it, please go ahead and send me a message, either on LinkedIn, or you can go ahead and send me an email as well. But we want to think about, what is my annual plan, especially as we're heading into 2022. What went well last year, right? And there's always a nugget where, whether it's personal or professional, what do we need to keep doing, stop doing? What do I need to let go of? A lot of us, we've got things we got to let go of. And then part of that is recognizing what we're grateful for. And then as we're moving into the next year, what do we want our theme to be? For some of us, it might be go big or go home, right? For some of us, it might be stay steady. For some of us, it might be I need to re-swizzle. So, and all of that is okay. But again, we want to have a plan. For those of you that are leaders, maybe it's for you deploying a program. What does it look like to have your team in the right mindset? Right? To be positive, to be driving these things at the end of the day. And then of course, we want to move into, what do I want to accomplish? And really, really take time to think about this. What do you want to accomplish and why? And what are you going to do when you are successful with those things? So sometimes we accomplish our goals, and then we get a little overwhelmed by the success potentially, right? So we want to make sure we're able to embrace our success. And then of course we need to tie our actions to it, right? So if my goal is to eat healthy, then I guess I shouldn't be buying ice cream at the store, right? So we want to make sure that whatever we're setting out to accomplish, we pair that with appropriate actions. So if you're a sales leader and you say, hey, yep, you know what, I need to get my team in the right mindset. Great. Start by building out your fundamentals. Start by building out a communication plan or a deployment plan, and then finish it up with expectations. What does that look like, right? And then pressure test it. Go to your team, talk with them about it, right? We're not creating stuff in a vacuum. This isn't a decentralized thing. This isn't command and control, right? We're all adults here. So what does this look like? That will then cascade to your job description writing, your interviewing style, your onboarding, who applies, all that good stuff. There's so many ancillary pieces that come out of making sure our head is in the right space, right? So we want to make sure we're taking the time to do this and do this well. And then from there, what we want to be able to do is talk about, how am I going to deploy this? How am I going to take steps, right? So I just called out what do I want to do? And I called out the actions I need to take. Well, now I need to start putting it out in quarters, right? So if my plan is to create a skills matrix and crawl it out, right? And just get my team into this next phase and next space, I'm going to tell you, it's going to take 3 months, if not longer, right? Because we're changing behavior. And that takes a long time potentially, especially as we're adults, right? None of us like change. So don't overwhelm yourself. And there's a little line here that talks about rules of engagement: no more than 3 milestones per quarter, and actions must be associated. Right? So your Q1 might be program creation, with the action of pressure testing it, because we don't want to boil our team out of the pot, if you will, right? And so if we do that and do that well in Q1, Q2, you can deploy and everybody's like, wow, this program is an overnight success. To which you as a leader can say, it's an overnight success, 3 months in the making, right? So make your plan, work your plan at the end of the day. So, and just be consistent with it. and be transparent. And I share with folks too, a little jokingly, that your first 2 quarters, wherever you're at on this, are really done in pen, meaning they're not necessarily movable. The next 2 quarters are done in pencil, meaning we should pause at the end of our first 2 quarters and revisit our milestones for the next 2 quarters and see if anything needs to change. For those of you that are looking to build out a sales training, I use that term loosely, but a sales enablement, sales education path, here's another worksheet for you. Again, for ourselves as sales individuals, or if you're here leading a team, you want to have something to share with people, right? It gives what we've done credibility. It gives our program credibility. It gives people something to look at, something to read, right? It helps cement the program itself. And so, what is the philosophy? Our philosophy here, our team exists to create relationships, let people know we're here, let them know how we can all help each other, right? So, what is the philosophy of our training? We know, show, do, meaning KNOW. So we teach, we show, we demonstrate, right? I'm a huge fan of teach backs. How do we approach this sales training? What does the initial onboarding look like? What does ongoing training look like, right? So at the end of the day, this is kind of what we want to be able to write out for ourselves and write out for our team. Then, of course, too, you'll see on this right-hand side, what is the checklist? And for some of you, this checklist might work for now, but maybe you have a different checklist. How are you going to measure success, right? And so as you start building this out, and for those of you that are on the call as a leader, once you start doing this, you can now go to other departments, you can go to your boss, and you can talk about, hey, here's what we've built, here's what we think we're going to need, here's how we're going to measure success. Now you have a program. So with that, as you are hiring people or putting people through, or re-onboarding your current team into these fundamentals, deploying this out and setting expectations, you will see an increase in relationship set, people that say yes to talk to you. You will see an increase in meetings. You will absolutely see an increase in all of these things. And then you end up with more credibility. You're able to have momentum for you, your team, and your company, your customers. So it's a really, really good way to think about our sales mindset. How are we resetting ourselves? It's almost December, right? Heading out of this year and into next year. So for those of you that are wanting to move forward, what are some of the next steps that we have? So determine where you're at. Some of you may have some of these pieces. Some of you may have all of these pieces. Give yourself a grade on a scale of 1 to 10. How well do you walk through your sales fundamentals? What does that look like? And then, of course, you're going to talk about your goals. What are your next steps? Do you have an accountability partner, right? A lot of people want to go ahead and keep going, but I'll tell you, having a buddy, having an accountability partner, having somebody to bounce ideas off of can really make sure we're cooking with gas and going in the right direction. Right. And then being able to say, okay, which piece of this puzzle am I working on now? And so with that, we have that. And then I included an example here of a completed training and onboarding document as well. So it has the philosophy, the approach, an initial onboarding, and then ongoing training. So something to keep in mind, this is what a finished one may potentially look like at the end of the day. And so with that, I want to thank you for our time today. We covered a lot of ground today. Shannon and I will be reaching out randomly to one of you for a follow-up discussion. We really appreciate that. You have access to the Inside Sales by Design courses online, where we teach a few of these concepts if you're looking for some outside education to bring into your team. Shannon's website, Cloud Adoption Solutions, has amazing content when it comes to Salesforce.com, writing reports and all that good stuff, right? We can't improve what we're not measuring. So in that sales training worksheet, we talked about how are we going to measure success? And we want to make it easy for ourselves, right? So we want to make sure that we are really diving into not only writing out and having a plan that we can present as far as our fundamentals and deploying and expectations, but we also need to use the systems we have to make it easy for our teams to administer, self-administer, measure, and report against, okay? And so for those of you that would like additional information, please go ahead and book time with Shannon and I. You will have that information here. There's some more resources, but we will send you a follow-up with some of that additional information as far as how to contact us. You can please connect with both of us on LinkedIn. You can send us emails. We are here to help, and we are happy to either engage with you or point you in the right direction of folks that can help you out if we're not able to. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we hope everybody has an amazing rest of the day and a great rest of the year. Thank you.